Hi, Roy here. I thought I'd pop in with week 4 of June on the Range. So, June on the Range, month of reading westerns, fantastic event created by Michael K. Vaughan with a group of co-hosts listed down below. I'm one of those dudes as well, proud to ride along. So, for me, this was Black Horse Week, Black Horse Western Week. So, Black Horse Westerns were books like this, smallish hardbacks created for the library trade here in Britain. So there were many came out. I think there were about 4 a month, and you could buy them, but quite expensive. They're virtually indestructible, and I've never known a library without these in them. So in a way, given that libraries are free at the point of use, they were like the people's westerns really, because whoever you were, you could go to a public library and there'd be a fresh supply of these coming along every month. And the quality is good. Wide range of stories, wide range of authors. And as time went on, quite a lot of people writing for them for whom this was their main or initial publishing outlet. So Black Horses, they finished a few years ago, which is sad, although they do still exist. You can still get a whole bunch of them on Kindle, obviously second hand, and some are being reissued. So, Black Horse Westerns. So the first one I read is actually one of those reissues. Peace at Any Price by Chap O'Keefe, real name Keith Chapman, well-established Western author. So this was a Black Horse book, and it was also republished as a Linford large print book, another part of the ecology of Westerns in this country. And now, under an imprint called Black Horse Extra, it's reappeared. Peace at Any Price. I really like the look of this actually. So, yeah, this was great. Short review. Starts in the Civil War. 2 guys are trying to be ranchers, but their ranch gets destroyed. They drift apart. They're on different sides in the Civil War doing different things, and there's a sort of a vengeance story bubbling under, because the guy who's they spotted as one of the marauders destroying their ranch also killed an old guy that they had working there, you know, so that's there. There's a woman too involved who marries one of them despite having initially been in love with the other one, and there's kind of a femme fatale character on the Confederate side where one of the chaps is doing sort of extra legal stuff like involving smuggling and things like that. So it's quite a broad canvas, and it builds to a really spectacular climax. You know, real page turner. I think there's enough plot to fill a much bigger book. In this edition, you get an interesting afterword as well, talking about the process of working with the publisher. So, should have said, Black Horses were published by Robert Hale, a long-established publisher. And they'd published westerns before, but they brought out the Black Horse imprint to kind of consolidate the branding and produce books that looked very, very similar, so that they would be picked up as a sort of imprint by people, you know. So if you want a western, get one of these, whether or not you follow particular authors or whatever. It unfolds a bit like a classical tragedy. It's got a lot of darkness, it's got a lot of action, and the characters are really strong. Keith talks in the afterword about westerns with heart, and how this sort of emotional depth is, you know, without that the stories just don't work, and this one really delivers on that front. James Reasoner, another great western author, compared it to gold medal westerns, which I hadn't heard of. So I knew Gold Medal was a paperback publisher, but I wouldn't have been able to sort of typify their Western output, which apparently involves a level of grittiness, and you might get your sort of femme fatale characters. So I'll be looking into those as well. I'll talk more about that in my wrap-up video in the near future. Anyway, yeah, like I said, this is out now. Actually, it came out in this form in April, but Black Horse is part of its history, so I thought that would be legitimate part of my Black Horse week. And I mean, I've read Chap O'Keefe before, particularly his Misfit Lil series, which I really recommend. There are others in the sort of new reissue format that I'll be picking up too. So that happened. Then, the one I've been waving about, Blood of the Breed by T.V. Olsen. This was actually one of the first group of westerns that came out under the Black Horse imprint. So I thought it'd be cool to get one of the sort of earliest ones. T.V. Olsen, established American western writer, probably quite famous for writing the book upon which the movie Soldier Blue was based. Anyway, this had already been published, came out as one of the earliest Black Horses. I guess as time went on, they were able to work much more with their own sort of newly commissioned works, but to get things rolling, maybe they were picking stuff from the established writers. Another great one, so Blood of the Breed. Here you have a hero who is half Native American, and he's part of a family who are... The patriarch is an ageing rancher, and his sons are very different. There's one who's kind of a bullying loudmouth and the sort of alpha of the clan. Another one who's the sort of follower who goes along in that one's wake. And then there's a guy who is an artist, completely different, sort of artist intellectual type, who, following an injury, has descended into the depths of alcoholism. And he's got a faithful wife who sticks with him. So that's the kind of brew of characters. And another thing is, the old rancher guy, his pal married a Native American woman and became, you know, in effect a sort of tribal elder in this group, and they have a little settlement within this ranch, which not everybody in the surrounding area likes. So there's all these sort of racial tensions. The first thing we see is three lowlifes abusing one of the teenage Native Americans, and the hero of the book rescuing them, and things sort of unfold from there. Again, pretty dark. It's got that kind of character focus. There is plenty of action, but it's very much about the people and the situations, and a really, I guess, what you might call a mature western. So that was great. I really found this highly compelling. Would probably read more T.V. Olsen at some point. Then thirdly, although I've got a stack of Black Horses, I was looking at what's available on Kindle, and I found, much to my delight, a Jack Martin western that I hadn't read. So Jack Martin, these are much more recent. It's Gary Dobbs, who is on YouTube with a great channel called The Tainted Tavern. And I've enjoyed his westerns from the first one that he produced, but I'd not seen The Afterlife of Slim McCord, was a new one on me. So got that on Kindle and read that, and really enjoyed that as well. Different. Here you have something that's very entertaining, a lot of comedy and likeable characters, and it's kind of deals with different things. It deals with friendship, deals with choosing right and wrong and that sort of stuff. So there's these two aging rogues drift into a town where there's a carnival, and one of the attractions in the carnival is the mummified body of the third one of the gang back when they used to be more active like desperados. So that's who Slim McCord is. He's been stuffed and is being shown off like Jonah Hex in a carnival. So they think that's a bit out of order, and basically they end up A, robbing a bank, and B, stealing the mummified body of their former compadre and strapping him to a horse. You also get an earlier timeline of how those three met and how they got involved in stuff. And it's a bit like Alias Smith and Jones in that they weren't like evil. It was more like they would be accused of things and get a reputation for things they hadn't actually done. And like I said, lots of stuff about doing the right thing and things like that. So there's Weekend at Bernie's style stuff to do with this dead body. There's also like things happen. Could Slim McCord possibly be looking after them in some kind of supernatural way? So proper entertainment, but if it sounds like, well, the previous two were like somehow more serious, I just think it's a real question, this, but are things like humour and focusing on values like friendship and ultimately having a sort of positive outcome, does that make a book somehow of lesser status than something that's got more sort of tragedy and grimness and deals with more troublesome issues? It's an open question. I mean, I would for me, I'd say no. I'd say yes, that that you can have a sort of what you might call a happy book and it's just as good as something grim. Anyway, yes. So if nothing else, we've seen the range of Black Horses, how they can be different kinds of westerns. So although they look the same and feel the same and they were all part of the same sort of marketing, they contain a wide range of western material. Another thing I would talk about is the sort of book archaeology. So this is something long time ago with Dr. Jennie, who used to be a librarian, talked about the way people used to leave marks within books, so library books, so they'd know which ones they'd read. Particularly these kind of genre books, like westerns and romances, where you had the very similar packaging, high volume, maybe people were just grabbing half a dozen to read that week. And these are great examples of that. So the copy of Blood of the Breed I got, it's kind of marks and stickers and stamps and scars show where it's been. So it used to be at Mid Glamorgan Library. So it was part of Mid Glamorgan County Libraries, withdrawn from stock. It's been sold by Tudor Books, and it's been sold by the Moffat Book Exchange. So there's actually 3 countries there. It's originally in Wales. Tudor Books, I believe, is in Somerset, or name change since then. And Moffat Book Exchange, again, shop's now called something different, but I've been there. In fact, I went there once when it had a whole shelf of Black Horses. I might even have seen this book with my actual eyes years ago. So it's roamed the land. It's been to 3 of the 4 parts of the United Kingdom. And then these handwritten sigils or symbols, those are readers putting their own sort of spoor in place so that they know this is one that they've read. And there are other ways of doing it as well, like putting a ring around a particular chapter number or a particular page number, so that could be the thing, and maybe you'd get some in the back too. So lovely to see that, like I say, full of character and good westerns as well. I did say I wouldn't spend the whole video rummaging around down here, but into every life a little rain must fall. So that was my Black Horse week. Really good, really enjoyable, and I will come back with a bit of a wrap up for June on the Range as a whole. Till then, back soon with something else.